We're going to go ahead and call the meeting to order. We've got 5 board members present. 2.01 is approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved by Marge, seconded by Susan, that we approve the agenda. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. Item 3 is to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Brian, seconded by Susan, that we approve the consent agenda. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. 4.01, receive comments from the public. I have one person who signed up to speak tonight. Is there an Aaron Harshaw here? Sir, if you please approach the podium. Mr. Harshaw, if you'd please speak into the microphone so everyone can hear you. You have 5 minutes. I can tell from your topic, I don't think this is going to be a problem, but you're not supposed to identify specific faculty members or teachers or students. And we normally don't give you an answer on the spot, although it looks like you're talking about something that's going to be one of our action items tonight. So with
Yes,
that,
thank you.
you have the floor.
Thank you. My name is Aaron Harshaw. I'm a resident of Ottawa and a graduate of Ottawa High School, and just live a stone's throw from here. And in keeping up with the seeming direction that the board is having to perhaps consolidate the adult ed into the Neosho County program over there, while it's a shoe-in that the facilities are tremendous and perhaps an improvement, and perhaps there might be some financial accruement to the board, or to the district rather. I think for me, just as a resident, in looking and knowing some of the individuals, the personnel affected, which would fall into 2 separate categories, certainly those employees of the district, those teachers, but really more importantly, the students that have, unlike myself, perhaps unsuccessful in graduating from USD 290 and are desiring to get their GED. For me, it seems important that we as a community take into full consideration how we define success, and that the bottom line is not always the bottom line, and that for us there are individuals who quite clearly have some blame for their own position, and perhaps there's some blame that needs to be accrued to, or responsibility that needs to be accrued to a system that maybe were no fault of their own, and some contributing fault of their own, didn't quite fit or marry into their learning style or ability, that perhaps our adult ed facility and its arrangements today, where it is, meets a need that translates success in a way that recaptures the validity of who they are, and that perhaps the bottom line of maybe saving some dollars doesn't necessarily translate into success for those to whom an institution-based environment failed them in the past. It is certainly necessary for us to make decisions, but as a community, I think we tell a lot about ourselves, Mr. Jones and Mr. Catt, and others on the board. We tell a lot about ourselves when we make decisions that seemingly seem to be based completely by the financial bottom line and ignore the human element of the bottom line. And it really ought be a no-brainer for us to not be consumed primarily with defining success with our adult ed program just by what's going to be best for us financially as a group, but rather what really will help define success from a personnel standpoint as a students, from the students, and it goes. And of course, I have some other questions that would be related if the decision goes to move over to the Neosho County. Will the board seek to maintain the current employees at all, or is that totally out of your hands at this point? And I think just as a citizen, my desire would be to express a concern that we be judicious and responsible with the funds that we are accountable for as stewards, to be sure, but we also are stewardships of we also need to exercise stewardship of our society, even the least in our society that we're attempting to help. And if you have the opportunity to answer that one question, that would be helpful. And I'm done with my time here. Thank you.
Thank you very much for addressing us. Appreciate it. Did you have anybody else sign up, Teresa? Thank you. All right. I go to 5.01. Let's discuss district goals 7 through 10.
Just a quick overview here. Goal 10, effective school management, and then board retreat, which we do in January and July. If you've had time to look at that, and if you have some input, I will take that and make the changes as necessary. One comment that I do have here on develop a system to assure programs, I need to change that, are implemented with fidelity. I think that is something our principals have done a really good job on, and almost to a detriment early when we did journeys, the definition of fidelity, there was a lot of stress for the teachers thinking that they had to do everything in that program, and we got that straightened out. But they're doing a wonderful job on that. The thing here, we don't mention our academic coaches in here, and I'd like to put them on who's responsible under something. I don't know how to word that yet, but give me some input here, and I'll make those changes on 7. Anything?
Are we going to...
We'll go through. What's that?
Sorry, the mentoring of junior board members. I looked at this, everything else looked like we were doing a good job of, but that's when I didn't know if we'd really say anything up for that yet.
Yes, I mean, we had David, and he's at the middle school program, and
Okay.
I'm trying to think who was his mentor. Marge.
Okay.
How do you think did that?
I don't know what he thinks, but I wrote out the first semester, basically, of the special meetings and what we do, and
Yeah.
I don't know if it was helpful or not, but we did do that.
Yeah,
Good.
I think it probably was, and then with KASB, obviously, but I think that's important. We do
Right.
that all the time here, and obviously we'll have a position to fill here before
Okay,
too long.
that's why I was asking about that, because I knew we were going to have a new position, so,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, we'll make sure that happens. Anything else on?
I wondered about some of the things like with KLN and some of those type of things. Do that need to be mentioned here, or is that mentioned elsewhere? I know.
It's mentioned in the next goal here.
Okay, all right.
The next one then, replicating models of effective schools, have effective schools that provide what students need to be successful. This is where we talk about the integrating the 21st century skills, college and career readiness skills or soft skills, and working with OFCED and business partners on all of those things. And I think that is embedded in our philosophy now. And then implementation with fidelity, high schools at work, differentiated instruction, AVID, career tech ed, PLCs, MTSS, and that's part of, it doesn't specifically mention the learning network, but that's part of
Right,
all of
that's
those
part
things.
of it. Okay.
And then again, the focus on vocational programs and students that are student career programs. I know Mr. Cobbs during our last retreat had talked about, you know, a dual track and really trying to accommodate students that want to pursue a vocation, whereas now it's kind of difficult with the scheduling. So I know he's going to be working with that, so I'll add something to the effect of, with a dual track, and I mean, we'll approve these at the our next meeting, but come up with some verbiage working with him on that. Replicate and support innovative programs. Again, I think we are doing a very good job of that with implementing MTSS, which encompasses a great deal of programming and things, but any comments on 8?
Well, Dean, I noticed that
Yeah.
you got walkthroughs on action step
just-
1 and 2.
Mm-hmm.
Capital B.
I know that the administrators are doing a lot of that, but I noticed we've got teachers on step 1. Are we allowing teachers to go to different classrooms and observe?
We do that
As well.
with our academic coaches, not necessarily the walkthrough piece. There are districts that started having the teachers actually take the document and do the walkthroughs of what others are doing, and it's been pretty successful. So that may be something we try to do,
Yeah.
but we have to do some more work
Okay.
administratively on that document and
Okay.
get it. But yeah, but they do get in other rooms and do observations, and I think they find that very beneficial too. Anything else on 8?
Bless you.
9, recruit, train, and retain talented professionals. Create a hiring process that assures the best candidates are chosen. Brian, help me on the exit interviews. Are we doing any exit interviews anymore?
At the high school?
No, Brian.
We did
I-
it last year, but we didn't have enough people leave, and there was any statistical validity. to the
Yeah.
responses. Greenbush didn't send them back.
Yeah, I didn't think we did last year. But that is on there. I don't know, is it something that you feel strong about that we do that?
I think it's always good to look at your exiting activities. And even if you only have 1 or 2, sometimes you need to look at it from feedback.
More like,
Maybe not stats, but just to know what's going on.
more like trends as opposed to,
I mean, don't you do an exit, Susan?
yeah, we do.
I think for all areas, not just teachers, but for all areas.
And it was all areas, I think, in the past, so, okay.
On number 1, I think it's a typo. It says create a hiring process that assumes the best candidates are chosen instead of assures.
Did I give you the wrong
I'm
one?
just-
Unless I
Is
have
that the one? Yeah, it's the wrong,
Okay,
Correct.
just want to make sure
the
that's
one,
corrected.
the wrong one's attached, so, yeah.
Okay.
It's right on this, but
Okay.
I'll make sure. I'll circle it here just to make sure. And then revise the evaluation tool to assure it will enhance professional growth. This is something that, well, with our IBB session, something that we just talked about being a negotiation item, looking at the evaluation tool again, and actually, I'll talk real briefly about one of the sessions I attended in Topeka the other day on the state evaluation tool.
Where's that at, Dean?
What's that?
Where's it at in process? The
The
state?
state one. It's, there are schools piloting that program, and actually I sat in a presentation by one of the schools that is doing the pilot, talked about pros and cons, but the overall concept of it and the simplicity of the document, I mean, it's very detailed in a way, but yet it doesn't take an exorbitant amount of time to do, and it really matches what we're doing fairly well, but it just condenses it down. The part that the school reported to me they don't like and don't have the time is they have to do, I believe it's 6 observations plus the face-to-face, and that would be wonderful. Everybody agrees that it should be that, but, you know, there's just not enough time in the day for someone, one principal to do that for 50 teachers. So But anyway, that's something that we're working on, and I really like this. And actually, Terry Howard, one of our teachers, and Cindy Gearing was on the state committee that helped develop this, and they're doing the piloting now. So I don't think we would have to adopt the state system, because there's some of it that I don't care for. Not that it's bad, but I just think it would be better if we could do something more geared to USD 290. But it's going well. So I think that's something that we're making some progress on. Mentoring program for new teachers and administrators, I think we're doing a very good job with that. And again, our academic coaches play a huge role. Not that they're that teacher's mentor, but that they can go in and really help and talk to those folks on what they're doing. And as far as administrators, with the new ones that we had this year in elementary school, I think, you know, Josh being their mentor really made a big difference. And then both of those principals went to the Greenbush Leadership Institute with me, and I thought that was very beneficial too. So
I think we should add academic coaches as responsible people. That, I mean, you know, because we kind of define that.
I will put it down and then have that discussion. I don't want to put them, I mean, and they're not, and I don't think anybody looks at them as an evaluator. They're not.
Right.
But just as that mentor piece, it probably would be good, Susan, to look at.
I guess I look at it like, what are we not how are we not supporting our new teachers, and is there something we should be doing differently? And that sometimes that's content matter, but sometimes that's
You know,
nobody
we'll do a survey at the end of the year. We did with mentors and everyone about how that went and what they think would be good or what didn't go so well and those things. So
Well, and I might tell my coach something, but I wouldn't necessarily tell my boss something.
right,
You
and
know.
that's the reason we have the coaches. So
Yep. So
yep. And then the last one, development of leadership and educational excellence. And we do this with the job mentoring programs, students, teachers, principals, board members. I think everyone does a good job of that and has some responsibility in that. On the one where it has evaluation, we need a mentoring program for principals and school board members. I'm going to take that off because I think that's in place now. We're doing it, so I don't think it needs to be on there that we need to do it. I think we are. And then the Leadership Academy I talked a little bit about, and principals. We have some teachers go through that if we don't have new principals. And then I'm part of the teaching class of that. Anything else that you can think of? I know Mr. Cobbs did the Franklin County leadership this year. We've had others in the past. Anything else?
That's how I did leadership last
Yeah,
year.
yeah. Well, I will.
So you said we're allowing teachers to do the Greenbush Leadership Academy?
Yes.
I think that's very important, especially, you know, for those that are looking to further their leadership role in education.
It's just,
Good step.
whether they get into administration or not, it's just really good information on just being a teacher leader and everything. So it's a great program. I will make all the changes to this and we'll review the whole document and approve that at the next meeting then.
All right, moving on to 5.02, board reports. Does anybody have board reports this week?
They're all this week for me.
they're all meeting this week.
Yeah.
We're early.
I guess I'll report that I went up to Baldwin to the sub-state all 3 games, then also went out to Salina on Friday night and watched the girls and boys. And at Baldwin especially, but even at state, we had great student sections that were very positive, very well behaved. I'm pretty proud to be a member of the board. Watching this, and this community support too is incredible. And boys got second, girls got third, so great year for both teams. But the student section, Mr. Cobbs and then the athletic director all do a great job to stand over there in front of them and making sure that they maintain themselves and do things. And I think we have one of the best student sections that I've seen. So that was really positive. I thought a good reflection upon our school.
Very good.
All right, 5.03, superintendent report.
Okay, just a real quick finance review here of some things coming out of Topeka. I sent out, and it's on their website, Kansas State Department of Ed website, the Senate Bill 450. And what this does is basically add $74 base state aid per pupil. That would be about $249,000 increase for Ottawa, assuming the same FTE. There's some opposition to this because it does have some stipulations on the local option budget, raising that to 31%, and I believe going to 30, I need to read that here, 33 or 4 in the future, I believe. So there is a little opposition to that. I think it's a fairly good plan. It's the only plan that helps Ottawa. Therefore, I'm kind of excited about it. But then I got my bubble burst today when got the other report from the Appropriations Committee had passed out of their committee the recommendation to cut $28.5 million out of this year's budget, which would mean a $41 cut in base state aid this year. And then that would be roughly $100,000 out of our budget that, you know, no one was planning for. I hope it doesn't gain much momentum. I know our Bill Fireburn voted against it, and I know at least one other Republican did. So there's still much work to be done. We're not going to know till very late in the year where we stand with school finance. We will see several things that come up. Senate Bill 2773 would require districts to spend their cash reserves down and to lower local property tax. That's building a little more momentum all the time. I don't know if that'll go anywhere, but it just contradicts what they want you to do. In some cases, it wouldn't hurt districts that spend all their money, but it would hurt districts like Ottawa where we do have some cash reserves. And I haven't seen anything yet. The biggest thing with cash reserves has been the bond and interest, where you have to have basically a payment because you don't collect the taxes in time sometimes to make that. If they made you spend that down, I don't know how we'd ever make that payment on time. So a lot of questions there.
Dean, did they say something today on an email from KSB on that they might make us use our reserves to pay for increased students as a stopgap measure to bridge?
Yep. This 28.5 million is what the figure is, that with the increase of statewide enrollment and increase in at-risk or free lunch students, yes, they'd make you do that. So. There is some talk about private school tax vouchers and again, tax credits, I should say, for those attending private schools. Whether that goes anywhere or not, it kind of contradicts when the governor talks about getting rid of all the tax credits. And there are a couple legislators are talking about doing that. So again, a lot of rhetoric, but don't know yet. I talked a little bit about the governmental relations seminar. Brandon and I attended that evening with our legislators and thought that was a good session, and always enjoy talking to him and kind of getting the inside scoop of what's going on there. It wasn't as well attended this year, I didn't think, as years in the past. And personally, I was a little disappointed, and maybe they just don't have, just like I'm reporting here, you don't have a lot of information that's you can hang your hat on coming from the Capitol yet. It's a lot of rhetoric, but nothing really been decided on that. So one good piece was I talked about the evaluation document. That's something I do want to pursue with USD 290 and the teachers to see if we can implement something geared more like this than what the instrument we have, I think, is too long. This really covers everything that needs to be covered, but we'll be doing some more research on that. Capers, again, at the legislative coffee the other morning, I mean, there's just a lot of talk, and really, I don't know, I couldn't tell you where they are now. They're still talking about the 403B or 401K, making employees join that, new employees be in that system, but it really doesn't address the fact that it's underfunded X number of years out and the cost is still gonna be there. So again, we'll have to wait till, unfortunately, maybe May to find out if they do anything. Another good session I did attend was on the waiver, the state waiver the state has applied for, to where it would change the way that we figure adequate yearly progress. It would do away with the subgroups, whether it's, you know, the minority population, special ed, free and reduced. It would do away with all those subgroups and look at your entire district or school. And it would be, there's 3 different ways, either a growth model, which we've been talking about, to see if those kids are making growth through their educational process, closing the achievement gap. If you did have a gap, or a group of students that weren't achieving very high, any of those subgroups, and I say we do away with subgroups, you wouldn't be based whether you were accredited or not on that. But if you could show growth in those, special ed's a perfect example for us. I mean, when 4 years ago, 5 years ago now probably, I think we were 16% proficient in that group, and now we're in the 70s to 80s, and it's just amazing, the growth, but still we get dinged and still on improvement because of that. Well, this would alleviate that. And then the same model to where 100% of the students would have to be proficient by 2014, which I don't see any district being able to do that, but some seem to think they can and want to continue that. So anyway, there's some positive things coming from that. The big downfall, and this is the big question mark on this evaluation document from the state, there has to be something in this document that's associated with student success and student test scores and those things, and that's a huge question mark on how that would work. So we're waiting to see on that. ORC board appointment. We need to kind of make a decision here. It doesn't have to be voted on or anything right now, but Jeff Curie's term expires May 1st. And in past years, we've put that out to the public. I did talk to Jeff, and I think he's interested in continuing to serve another term. Do you want to go through that process, appoint Jeff again if he's interested, or are one of you interested in serving on the board in that capacity?
That's a 4-year commitment, right? I mean, if we would appoint Jeff, it would be 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
I think it's 4.
Okay.
So.
I have a concern, I had some phone calls about this, but I have a concern about if it was one of us, no matter where we are at on our serving on this board, whether we could commit a 4-year, 4 years. None of us are for sure to have 4 years, at any given time. So, and then it would be fragmented. The people who serves on that board then would be fragmented, and we would have new people on at different times. I kind of am concerned about that part. Also, did you look at the state statute? Because I didn't, but the person who called me was talking about the state statute, and was it legal for us to do it this way, to appoint one of us instead of that? And their bylaws states one thing. Of course, they can change their bylaws, I guess, if we decide we're changing this other. So I just, where are we legally, and where are we on the timeline?
Well, we need to make a decision, obviously, before May 1st, but
Yeah.
I didn't know, what I wanted to get was the feeling if that's something that you're interested in pursuing, one of the USD 290 board members serving on that, in that capacity, or?
I don't think that'd be a good
I don't
precedent,
think
because
so.
that's a separate board and a separate bylaws, in which the mill levy is not under the control of the board. We approve the mill levy, but then the spending and the activities are done by a separate board with a separate control. You do not want to have serving 2 masters, because you've got a fiduciary responsibility when you're on that board, and you do not want to have an undue influence or conflict of interest that is born by having a board member here serving that board down there. That should not be one of our options. It should either we reappoint Jeff or we advertise for new candidates.
Okay.
Well, and I don't know in terms of, I mean, you said that he's interested in continuing. I mean, is he able to make the meetings and?
He's done a great job.
Really?
I'm at almost, because I'm the board rep from here to that, not on the board or anything, but I'm just the rep, and he's, unless it's something like he's out of town for his job
Mhm.
training or something, like some of us have to be gone, but he's there
Right.
anytime he
Okay.
can be there.
So
And
that
I'm
hasn't-
all for, you know, Jeff is not, I think has done a great job, but I also know he's up for reelection, right? And if he loses that reelection, how is that gonna affect his appointment or his stay here in Ottawa?
I think we would address that at that time, because we can't do the what-ifs as a board. I think we need to look at if he wants to apply, we could have him come to the next board meeting, make a statement that he'd like to be reappointed, or send us a letter. And then because again, we can always reappoint and fill in, because I don't think
We've had to before.
we've had to do that before.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, he's filling an unfulfilled term, because I was on the board when he was appointed, that hasn't been 4 years ago.
Yeah.
So I think he's fulfilling an unfulfilled term.
Okay.
I'm trying to think who it was.
Someone who moved, I think, and
Well,
was a
I
female,
have to
I
get
believe.
back.
Move to Arkansas.
I think that's right.
But,
I'll have to.
But are we gonna open it up to
Yeah,
other
that's-
people who are interested, or?
Do you want us to advertise it? And that's what we've done in the past, is they, you know, done the letters and come in and.
Even when we did a reappointment,
I don't think so.
Yeah, I think when we did that, we had several candidates, didn't we?
I didn't think with the reappointment we did, because.
But this isn't a reappoint, I mean, oh, I see, if you just want to reappoint.
if we want to
purposes.
reappoint him
Reappoint
and
him.
he's currently serving and he has an interest, we can do that without opening it all the way up.
We've done that before.
We've done that before.
Okay, I mean, is that,
Yeah, I'm okay
I'll
with
get a letter and stuff from him and
I
make
mean-
sure and go through that process and see where we
I
are.
am,
Okay.
as long as he can, it's not too much
And then
of a-
obviously we have a board position to fill. Teresa, the deadline on that is what, next week? You know, Monday. And I know we've had a few people inquire about it, so we will have somebody to choose from anyway. I didn't know if we would have any or not, but we'll have that list together and go through that and make the appointment at the next board meeting. Attendance center at the elementary, we had talked a little bit about if looking at the option of attendance centers, and I think we all know the answer to that, because we had looked at it before. But if we had, say, Lincoln third and fourth grade center, and possibly fifth there, Garfield with kindergarten and first, it just doesn't fit. I mean, we have too many kids in one grade level. It just doesn't fit to get those into 3 buildings when we have Lincoln as a big building, then Garfield is kind of medium, and then Eugene is small. So that part of it really doesn't fit. So the principals are still working, or will be working on how we'll address those issues for next year, and we'll have that at the next board meeting as well. A couple of dates coming up. Eggs and Issues is Thursday, April 19th at Prairie Star. If any of you know that you want to attend, let me know.
Who's
And,
speaking?
Martin Haber,
From the guy that has the Capitol
report.
report?
Mhm.
What is that?
It's Thursday, April 19th, 7:30 at Prairie Star.
Put me down as tentative, I think I should be able to do that.
Okay. Anyone else?
I'll have to, I can't say right now.
Okay. Marge?
I don't know yet.
Not sure yet
I
either.
gotta look if I'm still vertical.
Dean, were you going to go over the enrollment guidelines tonight, or are you going to go over that next time?
No, they're here.
Well, I was just going to look at the numbers. The numbers are, because I went back and Googled through the forms, and it looks like we did have a guideline for kindergarten being 22 in the year 2000, kindergarten and first grade. And this one drops this one down to 18.
That's what it was after, when we did the,
Because I couldn't find a formal motion
Well, I don't think, when we
or
did the
handout.
Gould and Evans facility planning, that's the number that everyone agreed was 18 on that. I know the last one was 2,000, and I didn't bring that one in, but.
Well, and then we had the comparative leaves. I think Dr. Kraus gave us one to where I found that showed us how we compared to Baldwin and Olathe as well. So I don't know if we need to go back and revisit those as we look at some of the other issues as we.
Yeah, we have that one, but we can, yeah.
Yeah. And I was concerned because having it just one specific number, we do need a range, I think.
And I
'cause
thought we
it
had a
can't just-
range.
I think we have had in the past, because it may not work out that it's even a certain number of students without a lot of moving, as we've experienced, so I think that a range is probably more acceptable. Give the principals more leeway.
Well, I mean, I think, let me see the way it's worded here on
Because like the class side on general, the guidelines was 21, 23 for Olathe, 22, 23 Baser, Linwood, Baldwin was directly 18. First grade was 20 to 21, so I was just curious because I thought we had a range when we settled on those.
Now, I mean, the numbers that we had were, I mean, this was the maximum, I mean, what we considered the maximum size, or anything over that would be big. There isn't any policy on that we can't have over this, but this is what we thought would be the ideal size of classrooms.
It was there.
When we did our Gould and Evans thing, and that was 18 kindergarten, 21 first through fourth grade, 22, and then 25 6 through 12. But that's something, if we want to develop a range, that would be fine, and we can look at that at the next meeting and do that. The other item here on, as far as activities, Tuesday, March 27th at 7:30 at Westminster Church is the mayor's prayer. And I need to RSVP to the city on that. Anyone going to be attending that?
I will say that I can do that.
Wednesday.
Marge, you will, you said?
And 27th
The 27th,
of March.
March, yes,
That's the
ma'am.
invite you got from the city.
Yeah,
You got one, everybody got
we
one?
just got
Okay.
one.
And you're going?
Yeah.
Okay, Brian. Did you say Susan? No?
I don't think I can, I've got
Okay.
another meeting.
Well, I'll have to check.
I'm
with
traveling.
David, so, okay. I will do those. And that is, I believe, everything I have, Brandon.
All right, we'll move on to 6, policies, contracts, bids, estimates, agreements, and other business. 6.01, approve Eugene Field modular. You want Richard to approach for this?
Yeah, if you just go through the bids and different scenarios there, and
As you can see there, these are comparisons. These are not, a lot of these numbers are not hard bids, except for the actual cost of the modular itself. These utilities, site plans, skirting, ramps, piers, and the permit, I got the approximate price on that from Mr. Tom Yale this week, or this last week. And that runs, like on the used modular, the one that's totals up there at 163. Of course, they based the permit on the 129. It came to around $1,800 extra for a permit, so the same percentage-wise would apply over to the new, so it'd be a little bit more money for just the permit on the new. I've spoken quite a bit with the city, and I've got the Mountain Homes that is furnishing these together, and the city is going to require for us to have a engineered footing or foundation plan, and Mountain Home can furnish that for us. The pier pricing is part of that foundation cost, and that's the labor part and the actual mechanical part of it. It's not the engineering part of it. So there would be a little bit of an extra cost there. The top two there, one is comparing a new modular 2012 model to a 2002 model that's been completely refurbished. It's got hardy board siding on the outside of the used one. Interior's been completely redone, new carpet, new ceilings. And like I said, these from the utility pricing on down are just, as I talked to Ottawa contractors, these are just kind of guesstimates of what these different costs would be. So it should be fairly close to that. And then on down, if you want to just look at keeping the same modular there as the double modular or the existing modular to be remodeled, I worked up those pricing. He had a 2004 model that had been completely refurbished and totaled that up. And then the existing modular, again, those prices on the existing modular are all just guesstimates. Those are not hard prices, but they're pretty close. So we wanted to present those to you tonight to kind of get us some direction which way we're going to go.
Yeah, what we need to do is decide on a plan here. You can see the new quad, used quad, replacing the same size, the double modular, and then redoing the existing modular with floors and all the things, Richard siding, those things, at 31.5, double modular 29.7, used modular 163, new modular 268,125. So I guess what we need to do is make a decision on what we're going to do there, and then we'll develop our plan for how we're going to deal with enrollment numbers after that, so we know how much space. The one thing that on the quad, it would greatly enhance the benefit that the students have there at Eugene Field with technology, putting in another hard lab for testing and just doing all their computer classes and those things, but they're in dire straits for space there.
Do we have any guarantees about the remodel of the existing one, how long that would last? How much time are we buying if we do it this remodel of the existing one?
Well, you're still going to have, the same, unless we tear out all the plumbing, but I didn't figure all that in. Plumbing, electrical, the heating and cooling is all going to be the same. But mainly what these costs are is siding, windows, carpet, things that would last it. Pardon me?
The bottom,
Yes, yeah, new floor joists and flooring, yes.
you don't have a guesstimate of how long this would buy us time? How much time will it buy us?
As far as lasting,
Mm-hmm.
it would, a complete remodel like that would last about as long as a new one. There's no new roof figured in on this, but, a new roof on that size of a modular would not be that, that drastic.
And someone said have we refurbished it or rehabbed it before? Is that right
It's
or
had
not?
work done on it, but
Well, I've had my grounds crew go in, tear out the flooring that was really bad and replace a few joists there, but it hasn't been a complete refurbish, no. Just enough to get us by.
This might not be the time to ask this, but I thought Gould and Evans was coming back to talk to us about our basic big plan. But now we're voting on this tonight, so that would kind of counteract that.
Well, not really, because, we wouldn't be able to do anything with Gould and Evans' plan to add on and remodel and those things. That's probably 2 years out. And we need something I mean, we need to do something now with the modular, and if we could do the quad to buy that space for computer lab, special ed issues, MTSS, some of those things, that would be ideal, but Jane was supposed to call me today, and I don't have anything to report on that, but other than we're communicating through email, but I don't know a date when she can come down.
On our city, at first we were talking about if we had a quad in there, we talked about the drainage, about the parking, new sidewalk, whatever.
Mhm.
Where are we at on the drainage pond and all that? Can we put any of that we're talking about in there without getting a surprise about a drainage pond that there's no place to put one? I mean, I don't
Well,
want to
there's
vote for
not,
anything.
there's not much place to
unless-
put a
No.
retention pond in there to start with,
No, I know,
with
but
or
what
without.
happens if they
No.
say you can't put it unless? Then we've bought
We've-
something we can't place.
They'll let us, I mean, we did check that to make sure, just with this one. the
Just
first-
with the half,
No, with the quad.
with the quad.
It's the big issue was redoing the parking, because we had redone the back parking and added and had all that drainage away from the building. And they consider that as, I mean, new, and when you look at the square footage, all of that was considered in that. And in, I mean, our original plan, I mean, we looked at how much space, and there was, what?
Original site plan we had, with the new parking and everything, 13% increase of surface. So that was going to require us to put in a retention of some kind. But if we just go with the quad only and not the other single and the double and the parking, the quad only brings us up 4%, which is under the 10% that the city is going to require us to put in a retention pond. However, that still doesn't address the drainage issues from the parking lot there in the west, the sidewalks and stuff like that. That's a different issue that really doesn't pertain to the quad, really.
So we need, educationally for the students, it would give more flexibility if we had a quad. We currently have a double, right? But if you add the double, new double and the existing together, you get about 92,000. But if you take both of the lower options,
Oh,
the 31.5 plus the 60,000, basically you're saying 59.7, so that's 92,000, right? And then we got 50,000 to play with for plumbing or whatever to get back up to the cost of a used quad. And then it may not look as permanent. I guess one of the things that always concerns me is our promise to not do modulars, first of all. Second of all, getting a structure there that then negates the need to move forward on what we know has got to happen for this district in terms of space for the future, you know?
That
So I
won't
don't know if-
negate the need at all. It
Well,
just makes
I
things
mean-
better for now.
Right, it's a Band-Aid. But that's what I'm asking is, could we do it with the two lower ones? It'd be less expensive and then deal with some of the drainage issues from the parking lot and stuff like that. I don't know.
I mean, the double modular on that side and fix the one we have.
Yeah, and then it still doesn't come up to the cost of the used quad. I don't know, but you still get 4 rooms. I mean,
well, that pricing, as you noticed there, it'd be a little bit skewed because with the double quad, we're putting in a lot more piers and foundation stuff. So when I figured the double modular down below, it was just using a lot that is existing there. So there would be some more cost, more than what this shows on the bottom here, because of, if you're going to put another double in, it'd be more piers, more foundation involved, and more hookups on the utilities. So it would be some more, but yeah, it would
Now,
be.
did they, on the double, Richard, I don't see it on there. I mean, on the quad option, you know, they said trade-in of 8,000, that was still, what's that?
Well,
figure down below? That
I
8,000?
assumed that 8,000 would go down there. I was really, I assumed that he was just taking that off of the quads up above, but he would have to give us something
Those
for,
ones,
for those. That is not figured in there, no.
Yeah.
So that would take care of some of the piers and the cost there.
So Dean, if we go to 4 rooms, what's the cost to fit with computers the other 2 rooms?
I think we pretty much have what we need, don't we, Kim?
Pretty much for one lab we would, yeah. And this summer's our rotation for the classroom computers, so that wouldn't be included in this.
So how much are we putting in used computers, or are we putting in new computers in there for this expansion? So so that's already in the budget to put in for next year, or is that new dollars that we're gonna have to come up with?
We already have 25 computers ready to go from there,
How did we get that many extra?
from staff machines that we have, that we kept in case we needed them. Right now, we're
Okay.
I don't like this because I feel like we're being forced to spend money that, I mean, I don't like to spend, but it's, a lot of it's because of the state finance, the way they do it. Like right now, we're sitting here having no idea what our budget's gonna be for next year. And since I've been on the board, it's been that way every year. We know we're gonna have to make cuts, but we have no idea what cuts we're gonna have to make, when we're gonna have to make it, because the state government won't give us our budget. So here we are being forced because we had to close the school last year because we got our budget cut. And now we're having a space shortage, and I don't want to put kids in modulars and I shouldn't say waste, but spend money on modulars when I'd like to see us moving forward with the master plan. But like Dean said, there's no way that's going to happen, and we don't have that kind of money. It's just a bad option, bad situation we put in.
And we still might get another cut this year.
I guess for me, I'd still like to see, Dean, the actual numbers. I know we've had several different spreadsheets, but I'd really like to see the numbers of what our class size is now, what's our tolerances to the marketplace around us, the Baldwins, the Owathas, to see how much could we grow in those rooms, and then look at where we're at with our policy. Because I remember we had a range, not just the straight 18, and I guess I'd still like to see those numbers, because this is a business plan to put this in, but does it have our full cost? Does it have our full analysis of what's the other costs are gonna be? I didn't know we've got 25 ready to go in here. I thought when you said we're gonna equip them for a classroom, Dean, where, you know, when the public comes to me and says, well, Dennis, you voted not to ever put new quads in, we need really a business plan to say, here's where the numbers are, here's what our total cost, and what the total plan is.
Okay. You know, with all that aside, moving other kids in there or anything, I mean, we can remodel the existing one. I mean, that's why I would like to have some idea, I guess,
Well, and I guess
without ever considering moving anybody from any school, and class numbers will be, you know, larger in one school, or we'll say some 5th graders at Lincoln will have to move to another one to get under that number, whatever, but,
And I guess from the plan standpoint, Dean, is when I looked at that first site plan, and Richard, I apologize if I didn't ask the question earlier, but I thought placing those buildings, that was just looking at options on what we could. And what I'm hearing now is really the ultimate plan was to do the quad plus a 2 plus a 1. Was that really the plan?
Yes.
well, that was an option to see where, you know, what we could get in there and those things, but.
But I guess when we made the promise to the community of not adding more quads, I think we need to have a real dialogue on what class size is. Because again, if we keep them at 18, we'll never get to where we're really efficient with the building of doing the addition either to Eisenhower, to Lincoln, or completing the 4th elementary that was always in the long-range plan. And I guess I don't feel like I have enough business information to say, yeah, let's go for $163,000 plus a permit, without having the city truly signed off on the plan to say, we're not gonna make you come back and put in a retaining pond later. I mean, we don't have that in writing either. I mean, I guess I'd like to see that before, I wouldn't feel comfortable just to vote on this tonight unless somebody else wants to make the motion.
Well, I think regardless, we have to do something with the existing
Right.
structure. So I'm of the opinion that we stick with what we have, fix it up, make it look nice, make it last a little longer, for lack of a better phrase. Because ultimately, I agree, modulars are just the pits in general. They're hard to maintain, and there's no sense of permanency with them. Personally, I would rather, if it's a space issue, I'd rather go with the bottom two, which is the double modular and the existing modular. But for sure, I think we definitely need to do something with the existing modular. If we do nothing else, we at least need to do that.
You want to table it again and come back with that other information on space and a plan of how that would look? I mean, we kind of got away from moving the other grades and those things into that space. But, I mean, we'll still have the issue with this modular and,
What's in the modular now?
what,
Second
Pardon me?
grade.
What's in there now?
Second, I think.
second grade, I think?
Both second grades?
We're not gonna have roundup numbers till our second April meeting probably, right?
Correct, that's the beginning of April when we have
Okay.
that.
I would like we still have those two big rooms at Lincoln, and I would like to have some kind of a guesstimate of how we could use those. I'd rather use those than spend all this money for the modulars that we promised we would never have.
Well,
And
We'll get that.
might take care of next year's problem, maybe a couple years. I don't want to use them for that, but I also don't want to break the promise to the public that we made.
All right, I mean, and the thing is with this, regardless if we do that, we still have the issue with the modular needing some work done to it,
I
so.
understand.
I mean, I was gonna ask, on the timeline, I mean, obviously the sooner the better. That's how it always is with any project. But you're not gonna be able to do any work on that modular until after May when the kids are out anyhow, obviously, right?
Correct.
Yeah, the existing modular, we could,
That'll be a
pull a
summer
permit and
Be a
get it
summer
pretty
project.
quick and get started. The permit site process through the city, from the time we start it, takes 6 weeks before we get final approval. So,
But if it's the existing modular, you don't have to get a site permit or anything, correct?
Yeah,
well, we got a site plan, I've got an existing site plan, so I think I can present that and show them I'm just doing remodel to existing. So it would just be a matter of pulling the permit. But the other three, if we decide to move something else in there, it's going to be a 6-week process with the city to just get it going.
but you wouldn't move anything in there during school. You'd wait till the kids were out, and it'd be a summer project also, right?
That's correct. But by the time you get to 6 weeks, then you get the contractor to say, okay, yeah, we can, or maybe if you want to go with the 2004 or whatever, they may be gone. I don't know. I
So
mean,
by the first part of April, you've got to have an answer, correct?
Yeah.
6-week lead time,
That would be
Get the
the
permit.
the minimum
okay.
to do it. If we're going to move something else in, we need to act on it fairly soon. And like I said, the existing is something that we can, take down and pull a permit for and do. But it's not adding any space.
Just be nice when you're making a decision to know how much money we're gonna get cut, we're gonna get in addition. It'd also be nice to know how many kindergarten students are coming in, so we actually have our class numbers. It's kind of hard to make these decisions without all the facts. You're kind of just guessing, and don't like guessing at $163,000 towards a temporary structure. Well, I mean, not a
Right.
prolonged, not bricks and mortar.
Bricks and skirt.
That's what we'll do.
Okay.
Thank you. 6.02, approve district boundaries.
The map that you have is what we have come up with the new boundaries. Eugene Field would be west of Main Street from 3rd Street to 15th Street. The Garfield area then would increase across, if you look at Garfield, east of Main Street from 6th to 23rd Street, and then on the west side of Main Street from 15th to 23rd. Kind of an L-shaped piece there now. And Lincoln then, the corresponding change there with Eugene Field, east of Main Street to north of 6th Street, west of Main Street, north of 3rd Street. So that's the new boundaries that we would like to use for elementary boundaries. And then also with that is this policy and procedure for student or parent-initiated elementary school transfer request. It just lays out some guidelines of how that process works, and again, talks about the boundaries and the issues that would be dealt with there. But what I'd like you to do is approve this map. When we start kindergarten roundup, we will try to place kids, you know, within these boundaries, but again, you know, we have to keep class sizes as even as we can there too, so.
Are these boundaries made kind of based on the concept that obviously Lincoln's the biggest school, so we're trying to bring in the most population up there, and then Garfield, is it kind of based on the population map of Ottawa, or
Mhm.
that's,
And we have maps with all the different students
Sort of,
plotted on
yeah.
here, yeah,
and that was,
Yeah,
so
so-
you kind of looked at that to try to figure so that, okay.
yes. And we do have, you know, students attending other areas just because they wouldn't fit in their home
Right.
boundary there, but, and we're not gonna force transfers right now to, you know, if they don't live there, say, well, now you have to go back to this school. We're not gonna do that right now, just because it's not gonna work, for one thing, because we have too many in one class, and we had to make kids move to a different school, so.
So I make a motion, we accept the new school map, school boundary map for USD 290 for elementaries.
Second.
It's been moved by Susan, seconded by David, that we approve the new boundary map for the elementary schools in Ottawa. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed, same sign, motion carries 6-0.
And then on the policy and procedures, I would like you to just take a look at this, and this is what we will use for parent-initiated transfer procedures. This is what we've pretty much done the whole time, but it lays it out where they can have a document to take and understand the rationale and what we are, how we do that.
Does that need a motion as well?
I think that's, you want a motion on that, correct? To approve it?
Guidelines already
I-
there.
I don't think we need a motion, just so
Current
you're
policy.
aware
Current.
what the procedures are. I
Yeah.
mean, it's pretty much what
It's
we.
current.
Yeah,
It's not good.
just so you know.
All right.
Um,
Moving on then to 6.03. We good? Approve board member appointments.
These appointments are for what Daryl Bork was assigned to in July. Yeah, so we need to appoint someone, a board member, to the Ottawa High School Site Council.
I can do it.
I'm
Okay.
around.
I don't mind.
Brian?
That meets at
Jenny?
noon, correct?
And then District Advisory Committee, that's the committee that we meet once a month, 6:30 a.m. here in the office. Anyone interested in taking over that position?
I'm already attempting to make it to that, so.
Yeah, I mean, we have David on there. I mean, we don't have to have two if no one's on time, I know, so, okay. And then, as the district hearing officer, Daryl also did all of the appeal hearings for expulsions.
I did that a couple years ago, so I don't want to do it again.
Okay, you'll do both of those, Brian?
Yeah.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank
Go,
you.
Brian,
I think the hearing officer meets maybe once,
once a year, maybe?
if.
Need a motion on those, or just?
Yeah.
It's okay.
Make a motion that we approve Brian being the OHS Site Council rep and the district hearing officer.
Second.
Moved by Susan, seconded by David, to approve Brian as the hearing officer and the OHS Site Council board member representative. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 6-0. 6.04, approve the purchase of the E-2020 program to replace the
Approve
A.
District Advisory Committee.
Did I skip something?
He's already on it.
Oh, he's already on it, so we're
Already on it, so
Yeah,
we
he's
don't,
already-
we don't have to
We'll
have a
just
second
have
one,
one
so.
member, so we just want to appoint someone for that, so.
He's just gonna have to get a stick and flog me to make sure I get there.
We sprung ahead, remember?
Yeah.
Lost an hour. I'm still lamenting.
This is the presentation we had last meeting, correct, on
The
the E2020?
E2020, yes, this is the software we'll use for virtual school and all of the things we do in middle school, high school now with A+. Cost is the $32,000. This will take care of our 6 through 12 curriculum. We'll drop the Compass piece and some other things we're doing there, but continue Compass in grades K through 5. But this is what we need to approve for virtual school and all the other virtual aspects.
And we use that in C-Tech too.
Yes, C-Tech. Or, OLC.
OLC,
and,
sorry.
Whatever,
OLC,
yeah,
yeah.
and whatever, wherever it fits, but yeah.
Somebody act.
Make them
I'd move to approve the 320 proposal as presented for $32,000 annually.
second.
Been moved by Dennis, seconded by Susan, that we approve the E2020 program at the cost of $32,000. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 6-0. 6.05, approve adult ed consortium for 2012-2013 school year. And I believe we have representatives from both. We are going to ask that each of the groups come up and just give a brief summary. You've each presented to the board previously, and we've heard from both of you. So if you could just each, 5 minutes or less, just make a brief summary of your program, and then if we have any questions for you, I think stand for questions.
Well, thank you. I think this is my third or fourth time of coming here this year and presenting our program. I have 3 points to make this evening, and I hope that you can hear me loud and clear with those 3 points. The first point that I'd like to make deals with our students. Because have you really listened to their voices? Does it really matter to you as the Board of Education what their concerns are with moving this program in its existing location out to the community college? Because if you haven't listened to those voices, you should have. Because they're intimidated. They do not have their high school education. This school district and surrounding school districts have failed them once. We cannot be a part of a system that continues to fail them. I know that we started this consortium 6 years ago, and the staff here has worked their tails off as a team and a teamwork approach for our students. And the bottom line is, regarding the students, this can't be about money. And this can't be about the fact that the business office only wants to write one check at the end of the fiscal year. This has to be about our students, first and foremost. And if you were paying attention to the voices of our students, you'd be attending GED graduation. Mr. Catt and Mrs. Stevens, that I'm aware of, are the only ones from this school board that have attended GED graduations, and you would have heard their stories loud and clear. It can't be about a shiny building and what they have available to them. It has to be about the students. The second point I'd like to make is this. There was an article in the newspaper last week that dealt with, actually there were 2 articles. And one of the concerns was the transitions that the students would make from our program over to the college. Let me tell you one more time that our program is top in the state for transitioning students into post-secondary education. The only program that is better than us tied us this year, and that is Johnson County Adult Education. There is not another program in the state that is better than us. So if it's not about quality, and if it's not about the data that we can give to you, then what is it about? Because it's not about our students. The third piece that I would like you to know, and I would like you to give some serious consideration to, is this. 6 years ago, 2 phone calls were made to me from 2 different school districts, one from the Osawatomie district and one from the Ottawa School District. And I was asked to be the leader of a consortium. And we made those goals, and we've met our stretch goals, and we have increased participation every year. We've increased the number of outcomes every year. Have we made mistakes along the way? Darn right we have. There isn't a program out there that doesn't make those mistakes. But we've met our goals. And when we formed a consortium, our numbers have risen year after year after year. The Neosho County Community College Southeast Kansas Adult Education Consortium, when it was formed a year and a half ago, lost 150 students the first year that they were a consortium, and that was just a year and a half ago. That is something that you need to think about, because we continue to be able to provide quality service to the students in this district. And tonight, when I lay my head down on my pillow, I know that I've done the very best that I can do for you and for these students. I know I've done that. And when I get up tomorrow morning and I look at myself in the mirror, I'm going to move forward because I've done my job. And I'm just asking for you guys to really consider what it is that you're voting on tonight, because these students deserve that respect. We are a better program, and that's the bottom line. Thank you.
Thank you. Neosho County, do you want to come up and briefly present?
I really don't have a presentation, but I'll answer questions if anybody wants to answer questions, ask questions. I mean, I presented last month, so I'm sure that's still fresh.
Does anybody have any questions for either one of the programs?
I have a question for you, sir.
Yeah.
I know you told me before that you could get tutors.
Mhm.
What kind of tutors? Where are you going to get them from? Do they understand the clientele that, not the college clientele, but the other
Yeah.
clientele? Where are you going to get these tutors from?
We actually, and Tony could probably answer that better than I can because he's the one that directs the TLC, but the person in charge of the tutoring, the way I understand, her whole background's in adult education, and she's worked with it. It fits into DevEd too. I mean, we're working with the same kind of students.
Where are they going to work with these, where are they going to tutor these kids at?
On campus.
Well, I understand that. I understood from a memo the dean sent us that we had one room and not a tutor room.
No. There's a whole lab that they can use. They have a classroom that's designated specifically for adult education. We can schedule any classroom we want.
So someone that's reading on 3rd or 4th grade level is going to go into a classroom where,
Not necessarily, no.
where are they going to go? I want to know exactly where they're going to go.
They would, it depends on when we sit down and do that individual plan with that person, what they would be doing.
Okay.
So could you give us a more definitive plan on how you plan to handle the needs and the spatial issues?
Well, I don't think space is an issue. I think it's it's a new building. There's classrooms available that we could access, and there's actually an overflow that's a computer lab that we can use. You might answer that better than I can. I mean, we got our VP here. So I know that I know space is not an issue.
Does anybody have any other questions? Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Ready for action on this?
Yeah, no one else has any.
Okay. Any other questions for anyone? Or any other comments? It's your recommendation that we go with Neosho County Consortium, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Need a motion one way or the other from anyone on the board?
Mr. President, I move that we recommend Neosho County Community College Adult Education Consortium to do our adult ed for the next school year. And
Second.
beyond.
Is that you, David?
Yep.
It's been moved by Brian and seconded by David that we approve the Neosho County Community College Adult Education Consortium for our adult education for 2012-2013 school year. Is there any further discussion?
Yes. I have 4 points I want to make. I don't know, I have tutored there at least 4 or 5 years. I haven't since I hurt my arm, but I have before that. My first point is we moved the OLC campus from the high school. We moved it at a considerable expense so that those students would not be with the regular high school students. Now we're turning around and putting those same kind of students, and maybe even the same students, with college students. Another thing is the low achievers. Sometimes, like I've already said, they come in reading at 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th grade level. They're embarrassed about that. They don't want anybody to know that. And the way it is now with that building that they're in, there are places where you can go. They know they're going out with a tutor, but they don't necessarily know what they're going out for. And so they don't have to admit to somebody that they're reading, that they can't read well enough to take the test. And that's the truth of the matter. That's what it is. But they work with those students till they get ready to take the test. Some longer, some shorter. If I've finally decided, okay, I'm going to go get my GED, then I don't want to have to admit to my classmates that I can't read, so I'm going to have to take a long time to do it. I might finally admit it to myself, but I don't want to have to admit to my peers and my classmates. Why the move? Is it easier for us? We are in the education business. That's what we're on this board for. It's our job. We hire people to run the finances. We hire the people to do that. We pay them well. And so, yeah, it might be easier, but that we're not in the easy business. Education isn't easy. Sometimes it's hard. And talking about the better chance to go on to higher education, we have success stories all over the place. Some of my former students are in OU now. I would have never dreamed that they would be in OU. They graduated from adult ed with 2 or 3 kids coming along and all of that kind of stuff. But we've always had a good rate that went on ahead, whether it be junior college, whether it be a 4-year college, whether it be something else. I think that's my plea. Unless you've been there, unless you've worked there, unless you've paid for gas for them to get to school, unless you've paid for their cap and gown, unless you've taken them to take the test. I want you to think about all of that because that is very important. And I know as we on the board, I'm probably the only one that has really had a hard time of making ends meet or having a meal or whatever when I was young. I know what these kids are feeling. I know that for whatever reason, the mistakes that they have made or just life has happened in a different way, they need a chance. And I don't think they'll get the chance at Neosho. What they will do is they'll say, I'm not going out there, or I will go. They'll go one time. They feel so bad that they won't go again. That's my opinion. That's it.
Why don't you think Neosho will provide them that chance, or why do you think that they'll go out there and not come back?
Because I can tell that you don't know the kids that are going. They don't fit in the college campus. Their clothing doesn't fit. Number one, how are they going to get there? There's no sidewalks out there. They barely get to downtown Ottawa. But they won't fit because they don't look like the other kids. They just won't fit in. Those reading levels, the 2nd and 3rd grade level, you're going to walk into college, and I'm a college student. I'm with the college kids and admit that I can't read past 4th, 5th grade level? No. They need those tutors, and they need definite tutors. They need definite people who care about them. And I don't see that in a college campus. College campuses are to make money.
Well, they do large have several, when I went out and toured, and I wish some of you would have gone, but several small rooms around that whole area that they have rooms for tutors, one-on-one instruction, plus the classroom, and any other time they need more space. And they're not going to be with the Neosho County College students. They would be in a separate classroom every time that they meet.
Well,
But there are rooms that they would have that access to
From the-
tutors and that.
memo that you sent, there was a room, we had one teacher and one helper for that. That's what the memo said. And then some of the, I didn't understand that there would be separate rooms.
Yeah, no, and that, after I did the tour, I sent out that information and talked about the number of small tutoring rooms around that area, the computer lab, then there's a testing lab.
The computer lab is not a place to tutor.
Well, I'm not saying it is, I'm saying there's a computer lab there along with the testing lab and the small breakout rooms, or whatever you want to call them, study rooms, all around that area also. So, I mean, they have rooms there.
I guess, Marge, one of the things that when I was out there, and I've been out there and spoken 2 or 3 different times to some classes out there, 2 things come to my mind. One, there are small office space, tutor spaces all over that building. And 2, I'm a little interested in the commentary about the age of the students and the dress of the students and how they won't fit in. Having been out there to the campus and spoken to several classes, you're going to see the entire spectrum, and you're not going to see the 18 to 20-year-olds in those classes. You're going to see people who are in their 20s, in their 30s, in their 40s, in their 50s.
Yeah.
You're not going to see the classic college campus out there. And I don't see the concern in terms of space and, for lack of a better way to put it in my own context, the ostracization, terrible word, probably not right, that I get the sense that you're concerned about.
Are we allowed to ask questions?
I think so.
Have you been to our facility to see what we,
It's been a long time since I've been in there, but,
I've never seen them.
well, it was before I was on the board.
I've never seen any of the other board members
I've been in your site
except for
a
Mark,
lot.
since I've been there.
Yeah,
Besides
I've been
Bill,
there.
I invited him to come.
I've been there.
Susan's been in my room. And I've not been there long, but it would,
Here's the thing that, both Marge, you pointed out as well as you, that you have a high success rate in the adult ed program currently of sending students on to post-secondary education. What better place to set them up for the college campus life, for lack of a better term, than having adult ed on a college campus? where
Because they
get
won't go.
familiarized.
They won't go. They won't go.
I don't think I think that's kind of a,
You're
Too broad of a
you're
statement.
downplaying your students, though. I mean, if they're dedicated,
That's reality.
Well,
I taught at Neosho County Community College for 3 or 4 semesters. And there were some college students that came down from like KU who drove down and wanted to take a class that was cheaper. And some of them thought easier, although I kind of tried to dispel that. But you also had a lot of kids who were from here in Ottawa, some who were high school graduates, some who were not, who came through GED programs. So, and I don't think it's fair to say, no offense to Neosho, but it's not Harvard or Yale. They're not pulling up in Beamers and, you know, wearing polo shirts and sweaters tied around their shoulders. I saw kids dressed all different ways. I had mothers, working mothers, people had jobs. I gave a kid a ride home from class every night. I saw the same level of commitment from the Neosho staff that you're describing. And so I do think that what you're saying is legit, that these are things that are going on there, but I don't think that it's just a given that Neosho won't provide that. And so I don't think it's fair to just kind of paint a broad brush like that just the broad statement that they'll go there once and they won't go back. You might get a whole different group who really like the new campus, or that might be closer to their homes up where they are. So, I mean, I think that all sides need to be considered.
Brian, you made a comment, and I would just like the opportunity to, to discuss that just real quick, and then I'll be quiet and sit down. I'm not downplaying our students. I understand our students. I've done this for 15 years, and I understand our students. Right now, I currently have a young lady that was in the foster care system that didn't understand English, didn't speak a word of it, and has worked long and hard with our teachers. She feels like if she is asked to go out to the community college, that she would rather make the drive over to one of our locations because we currently understand her needs. Does that mean that the college doesn't? I can't answer that question. Randy has a good program. I'm not going to deny that. But what I'm telling you right now is I do understand our students, and I've listened to them. And they're speaking loud and clear, and they do not want this transition to take place. And in terms of what Marge is saying, Marge makes very good points because she's been in our building and she understands our kids. And if you haven't walked in their shoes, you don't understand it. If you've always had a meal on the table, you don't understand it. They don't. A lot of these students don't. We have to keep food at the center. It just doesn't make any sense. And ultimately, if I wasn't even the director of this consortium, I would have to look at what's best for our students. I would have to look at what's best for this community. And I'm not sure putting people that are functioning adults, and they're functioning at the second, third, and fourth grade levels because our school failed them, that putting them out there amongst a group of college students, whatever they may look like, whatever their age, I don't care about that. But putting them out there isn't going to solve the problem. I came before you back in October and I asked for support to move our program because our program was growing. It has grown. We are one of the best programs in the state. And you're giving that up. What I'm hearing is that you're willing to give that up in hopes that another program might be better. I'll be quiet, but I don't agree with it, for what it's worth.
I have a question. Have any of the board members been contacted by any of the students from adult ed? I had not personally. I didn't know if anyone else had.
Not now.
There is been a motion that's been made and seconded that's on the table. Is there any further discussion on that motion? If not, all those in favor of adopting Neosho County as our adult ed program for 2012-2013, please raise your right hand. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 4-2. .01 executive session for negotiations.
Move the board going to the, did you want me to move? I was gonna move.
How long do we
What do
need?
you think?
That's what I was wondering.
10 minutes, 15 minutes?
15
Yeah.
with the break.
15 with the break, yeah.
Okay.
Mr. President, I move that the board go into executive session for the purpose of discussing matters related to employer-employee negotiations, whether or not in consultation with representatives or representatives of the body, and that the board return to the open meeting at, 8:45 o'clock in this room. The executive session is required to protect the district's right to the confidentiality of its negotiating position and the public interest.
Second. Third.
I yield to
So
Susan.
moved by David, seconded by Susan. We go into
Third.
executive session for negotiations with
With Dean Cat and Dr.
until 8:45 o'clock. The time motion carries 6-0. We don't need 8, so we'll move on to 9.01. Personnel, approve the staff list for March 12th, 2012.
So moved?
Second.
Moved by Susan, seconded by David.
Yeah.
Any discussion about that? If not, all those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 6-0. 9.02, approve retirement incentive.
So moved?
Second.
Moved by Susan, seconded by Dennis to approve the retirement incentive. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed, same sign.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was not opposed.
I was on
See,
the
that
first.
I was the first
You were
one.
approved.
Yeah.
Okay, motion carries 6-0.
Takes me a while to get my hand
I
up
was
there.
reading
fine.
ahead.
9.03, approve resignation of homeless coordinator.
So moved.
Second?
Moved by Brian, seconded by Susan. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 6-0. 9.04, appoint responsibilities of homeless
President,
coordinator.
I move that we appoint Teresa as, Teresa Powers, sorry, as the homeless coordinator for USD 90.
Second?
Moved by Brian, seconded by Susan, to appoint Teresa Powers as our homeless coordinator. Any further discussion?
Will you have time?
Nothing that's appropriate
Will you have time?
She's
And-
been,
She's
already doing
she's
the bulk
been
of the work
doing,
anyway,
yeah,
so.
she's been doing an awful lot of it anyway. so.
Okay.
Is there a
Do we ever
change
raise our
to her
hand?
salary
voted
for
yet.
that?
Okay.
Yes.
Any further discussion or questions? If not, all those in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 6-0. 10.01, announcements.
Tomorrow, we do start principal interviews in the morning. Tomorrow night's a literature festival at Sacred Heart. I'll be attending that. Starts at 6:30, I believe. That's what I have down here, but it seems like banquet maybe starts at 6:45. Let's see, Monday the 19th, spring break starts. I mean, we'll be in the office, but really not a whole lot going on. Next week, we come back on the 26th then with IBB session at 5 and board meeting at 7. I had mentioned the mayor's prayer. That's Tuesday, March 27th at 7:30 at Westminster. CAC committee,
That's me.
that is Tuesday, the 27th at 4 o'clock.
Oops, sorry.
Let's see, Tuesday, April 3rd, then we have IBB at 5, and that's going to be our training session with Patrick Dunn, and that'll be here in the board office. Legislative coffee, April 7th at City Hall. Monday, then the 9th is the first April board meeting, and IBB at 5, board meeting at 7. Quarterly Image Awards, this is a little ways out, but April 11th at 11:45. If anybody is interested in attending that, let me know. That's pretty much it.
All right. Adjournment.
Make a motion. So moved.
Second.
Okay.
Moved by Susan, seconded by Dennis. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 6-0.